Right, take two of the live stream. Right, I've done a couple of videos today. We've done a video on the NHL playoffs. Vegas look like they're going to sweep the LA Kings. That is an amazing run that Vegas have been on for the last, well, since the start of the season. So the entire season they've just been breaking records and proving the critics all wrong. That's just amazing. I've also done a video on sports betting companies and their sponsorship of sport. And in that respect, I have some deep concerns. Some deep concerns because of the rise of gambling-related issues that people have been having. The rise in sportsmen and women who've been caught and have breached betting rules in the various sports, and lately we've had Stuart Bingham and Jay Barton last year, and last week Mario Itoje's agent has breached betting rules and he's been caught, and that raises a lot of questions about betting companies and how they are allowed to advertise and sponsor teams, events, championships, individuals. It raises a lot of questions on the integrity of sport, because we've got issues with match fixing, and we've had issues with sportsmen and women having debt issues because of this. We've had problems where in the NBA in 2008, a referee was found guilty of betting offences and served some time in prison and was trying to throw matches. So match fixing and gambling go hand in hand. Now, in the US, in many jurisdictions, the betting and gambling laws vary from state to state in the US. Obviously, Nevada is the home of US gambling, and that has an impact. That is interesting. But you have to put it into perspective. Okay, is it acceptable? So there's many things you have to consider with everything, really. But let's just go through and see what's going on the old interwebs. Let's have a look quick. Got to check the old news here. Yeah, that's what we want. Try. Internet's not going to work yet. Great. Right, let's get that done. That's that done. Right, get that out of the way. Let's have a look at the sports website. Let's have a look at BBC Sport. Let's see what's happening on the old BBC Sport, shall we? Perfect. BBC Sport. West Ham are playing Stoke this evening. That's a crucial relegation battle match. The Team Sky and Bradley Wiggins jiffy bag scandal is still ongoing because now UK sport will not see costs. That's still got that's still rumbling on. Apparently, there's a performing bear at a Russian match, which is something that came up. Oh God! Let's read this, shall we? Footage of a bear performing in front of fans before a Russian league match has been condemned as shocking and inhumane by animal welfare groups. Not that the Russians will actually give a toss. A YouTube video showed circus bear Tim hand the ball to the referee before the third-tier game between Mashuk KMV and Angusht in Pyatigorsk, so middle of Siberia. The bear is seen clapping to fans while stood on his hind legs. The Kyiv denied claims from the away side that the bear was to be used in the opening ceremony of the World Cup. Russia hosts the World Cup from the 14th of June. In addition to being inhumane and utterly out of touch, using a bear as a captive servant to deliver a football is downright dangerous. At least Alan, director of animal welfare charity Peter, said. The bear is a symbol of Russia, so we hope the country's people show some compassion and national pride to stop abusing them. Common decency should compel the league to pull this stunt. This is Russia. Human rights and animal rights, not really a thing, love. The incident was cited as an example of animal exploitation still prevalent in the world. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Just some lefty liberals hug trees. While some supposedly find this depressing scene entertaining, there is nothing at all lighthearted about this kind of abuse. Again, people who don't live in Russia and don't realise that it's not a pleasant place. I mean, under circus laws now over here, you can't have animals perform circuses anymore. They have changed a lot of rules, but Russia, they don't care. They really don't care in Russia. And I'm not saying that to be disingenuous, but if I'm honest, the Russians don't really give a toss what anyone else thinks about them. They're going to keep doing it. It doesn't matter that a few people from a few animal welfare charities win, because nothing's going to happen. It's Russia. If it happened here, then yes, obviously you have to be stupid, but the Russians don't care. They don't. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. So Casey, what's actually happened to the Edinburgh Capitals? Because I was just going through a couple of news headlines. So I'm assuming they have gone out of business. What is the Elite League's response? So Casey, get your questions in there. They lost the rink. Okay, so who has the rink now? Because the rink is in Murrayfield, which is in Edinburgh, and it's right by the rugby stadium. Can you explain what has actually happened there then? Because you seem to have been following this story quite religiously, and in fact, I can try and find it on the Elite League website. Let's try and find it, because I've got all the stuff on Twitter. Let's have a look. Let's Elite Ice Hockey League. Let's see what they say, because it's not on the BBC News website. Let's have a look. Latest news. This website, the Elite League website, likes to crash on mobile phones as well. So I don't want to subscribe to news feed. I just want to read it. Okay, the Brayhead clan have got Scott Pitts come out to Brayhead. Murray Hill. So it's Murrayfield. It's Murrayfield. All right. Okay, let's have a look, because I'm going through the Elite League website and there is not a lot. They haven't actually mentioned it. Yeah, nothing on the Elite League website. The Old Firm. My views on the Old Firm is that it shows how far Rangers are from Celtic, and Aberdeen losing to Motherwell. I think it just shows the gap between Celtic and the next two in the league, and it's a big gap. Losing 4-0 is not good. It really isn't. Yes, Casey, if you could send the link, and this time actually spell the link correctly, because the last two links you sent me didn't work. But I can get the website itself. Just if you have any information, whack it in one of my videos I've done before, because I've changed my settings now on my YouTube when it comes to video links and stuff. So I'll have to hold it for review, but put it on send me a message on it. But yeah, John, the fair enough. Yeah, John, the thoughts on the old firm, Celtic are far ahead. And I did a video the other day on bringing in a salary cap in football. And this is one of the examples why you should bring a salary cap in football, because if Celtic keep winning the title, there's going to be less interest from outside investors and for fans to go watch games if you know who's going to win the title before the season even starts. It gets a bit predictable and a bit boring. But Casey, it's very interesting that the Edinburgh Capitals have actually gone basically, but I'm going to have to double check that. So it's on the Edinburgh Capitals website. You're saying? Let's get this up. Elite Ice Hockey League. I should have all the links. The thing is, there's been rumours about the Edinburgh Capitals having money problems for a couple of years. I'm not surprised. Let's have a look at menus. Home, latest news, stands, teams. Here we go. Edinburgh Capitals. Let's have a look at the Edinburgh Capitals. Let's see what they're saying about the Edinburgh Capitals. Because I clicked on it and I can't stand this website. Right, Edinburgh Capitals. Click here, webcast information, email, website. That's what you want. Apparently, 1 million people went to see Elite League games this year as well. Edinburgh Capitals have lost their bid for ice time at Murrayfield Ice Rink. Oh, shut up. Right, what means for Edinburgh Capitals going forward is yet to be decided. Right, that's been released. Okay, and then right, let's have a read of this. Okay, I've got on the Capitals website, and let's see what it says. Edinburgh Capitals have lost their bid for ice time at Murrayfield Ice Rink. What this means for the Edinburgh Capitals as a club going forward is yet to be decided at this early stage. More information will be provided as things become clearer. In the meantime, the club would like to thank everyone. Basically, what's happened to the Edinburgh Capitals is they don't own their rink and they've run out of money and they can't afford the rent. And whoever's come in with this Murrayfield Rangers, they've obviously got financial backing to rent the rink space. That's basically what's happened there. I wouldn't be surprised if the chat has stopped working again. Let's get this chat to work. This chat keeps going wrong. It's really annoying. Right. Right. So what are the questions? I mean, the old firm. My thoughts on that. It's basically Celtic are too far ahead. That's a reason to bring in a salary cap to make it a fairer league, because at the moment it's an unfair league because Celtic win it all the time. But Casey, whoever's watching, if you've got any more questions, just whack them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Because I've been on the Edinburgh Capitals website, and they've lost rink ice time. That doesn't mean the team has folded; it just means they've got nowhere to play. So yeah, the Edinburgh Capitals are basically the Edinburgh Capitals. They haven't gone out of business just yet, but they can't afford their rink space because they don't own the rink. They were renting ice time. So whoever these Murrayfield Rangers are, they might have the finances in place to put a team on the ice. That's pretty much it. But the Edinburgh Capitals only had a real terrible season anyway. So they weren't winning. They weren't making any money. They've had money problems for a while, allegedly. Okay. But any other questions? Because for some reason over the last couple of live streams, the chat keeps going funny and I have to do the pop-out chat and it's just an absolute pain. Absolute pain. So let's see what else this says then. Let's have a look at this. Fans forum. God, what's this? Oh dear. To be fair, they only had 5 wins all season. That is shocking. That's really bad. What other questions have you guys got? Because I know West Ham and Stoke are playing tonight, and that is a relegation, real key in the relegation battle. That is, and as far as I know, it was 0-0 last I checked. So, if you are watching the football, it was 0-0 last I checked. Well, I'm just going to quickly check the football score. Come on, see what the old footy score is. Yeah, Celtic 4-0. We've discussed that. It just shows the gap between Celtic and the rest of the Scottish Premier League, and that reaffirms my view that professional football in Europe needs a salary cap, because it shows how uncompetitive some leagues really are when the same team over and over again keeps winning. I don't know where the Rangers fan, he's probably in hiding. He's probably in hiding. I would be if I had been bigging it up for the last 2 weeks about this semi-final and getting thrashed 4-0. But West Ham Stoke is 0-0 at the moment. So if you're following the Premier League relegation battle, that's a crucial game. I think whoever wins that is the team that. Yeah, he's probably in hiding. He's probably run away and hidden. It is interesting though, because the Celtic result highlights my view that you need a salary cap, because fans are staying away from Scottish football for a reason, from most of the clubs for a reason, because they know at the end of the season only one team is going to win most of the trophies, and that is Celtic at the moment. That's also putting off foreign investors in investing, because it's a non-competitive league and it's going to be money down the drain. Another issue is because there isn't money in Scottish football, they can't retain the talented young players, and they end up leaving the game before they've developed properly, and they end up in the lower reaches of English football, for example. So there is that. Oh God. But yeah, that's my view on it. I think it highlights the gap between Celtic and the rest of the league. Aberdeen also crashed out in Motherwell, so Aberdeen have lost a bit of form the last month or so, and they've given up second to Rangers. But the gap between Celtic and Aberdeen and Rangers is a lot bigger than it should be. It's getting to the point where it's making the league so boring to watch that you know that Celtic are just going to win all the time. And it makes Brendan Rodgers look like he's a brilliant manager when he actually really isn't. But it is what it is. What can you do? I mean, if you're a Celtic fan, even Celtic fans must be going, this is not challenging anymore, because it's not enjoyable. Bayern Munich aren't as dominant as people think. They do lose a lot of games, and they extended their dominance after Pep Guardiola got there. Before Pep Guardiola got there, it was a far more interesting league. They just happen to be the best funded German side. They have the most fans and the most money. And in German football, the fans have a lot of say on how clubs are run. That's why it's so affordable to go watch German football. It's actually cheaper for me to get on the Eurostar, get to Paris, get on the TGV, go into Belgium, get a train from Belgium into Germany, into Dortmund, watch a game, and then get a train back. It is cheaper for me than actually going to watch a game at Arsenal or Chelsea, Tottenham or Crystal Palace. If I was to go watch a Premier League game in London, I'd be paying a fortune. Okay, I've actually, yeah. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. As far as I know, they've lost their ice time, and the future is uncertain. But the team still exists for now, so we'll have to watch this space. So the next couple of days and weeks, we'll find out if the Edinburgh Capitals are done as an ice hockey team. Abdul, hello. Sorry, I didn't do a live stream last night, guys. I just really didn't feel up to it. I think because the owners of the Edinburgh Capitals had no money and they didn't own the rink. They were renting the space. And the races, I think you have to be a bit careful because of the London races. I think whoever owned them still owns the trademark. But we shall see. The Elite League needs a even numbered team league, and the fact that Edinburgh only had 11 points and only got 5 wins and 1 shootout loss all season, when Milton Keynes Lightning had about 40 odd points, shows how big the gap is between them and the rest of the league. No, I didn't have any bets on the Grand National. I've done a video on my views on betting companies and sponsorship in sport today. It was one of the last videos I did today. I didn't have a bet on the Grand National this year. So there's that. But with the Edinburgh Capitals having these problems, this reminds me of 12, 13 years ago when a lot of teams went out of business. So when I was really getting into ice hockey, and British ice hockey was basically in a lot of trouble, and how the Elite League was formed, I've done a video on that as well. It has a knock-on effect. Now they finished the season, so that's good. Unlike the Manchester Phoenix, who didn't. Anyway, have you had what? I have had a little look on the NI. I've had a little look on the Elite League just now, but the NIHL website on mobile is really, really bad. It keeps crashing and freezing, so I haven't been able to read it because for some reason the NIHL website is really bad on mobile. So, and as I'm live streaming off my laptop, I could try on my phone, but I'll have a little look. Let's have a little look at the NIHL. I mean, what is the news then, Casey? Because I'm going to see if let's see if this will actually be interesting. Let's have a look at the news. Let's see if it will work on my phone, because normally this website doesn't like working on mobile app. It's crap. It's not latest news. Yeah, no, we knew that. I knew that. That was announced before the season started that there'll be no relegation, but the winner of that playoff would go up into the. I knew about the Swindon Wildcats, but basically Oxford City Stars will be playing in Division 1 next year. The thing is with their rink, they have no plexiglass. It's all netting at their rink. There is no plexi at their rink, so they might have to upgrade their rink at some point. But yeah, no, I knew about that. That was announced before the season started that the winners of the regular season or playoffs would be promoted. And that makes it interesting. It also makes me interested to see how Cardiff do and Oxford. I think they're going to be well out of their depth, which means I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of player movement. I think you could get some more seating at your ice rink. You could get rid of one of the cafes or bars and put seats up there. You could improve the sound system. But these are little things. I mean, Basingstoke really need a new rink. So I'm very surprised that Basingstoke, when you were on the bus to Sheffield, that someone said Basingstoke are going to be at their rink next year. I find that hard to believe. Oh yeah, no, our blue lines and red lines are completely faded as well. But it does take a long time to get an ice surface sorted, and on the budgets that these rinks are on, it's not a lot. Netball, yes. Great Britain, well, England winning the netball. There is an issue with funding. This has been on the BBC News website. There is an issue with funding of the netball, and that is very constrained. And Olympic funding and national lottery funding has come up a lot, especially when it comes to women's sport getting funded less than men's, for example. I did a video on that, and not many people wanted to really watch it. But it's been released today. There's an article on the BBC sport website that women's netball, the funding is still not appropriate for what they can do, and they've clearly proven that they can win an international tournament. And the Australians are very good at netball. And this is not even with a full British side. This is an English side. You got Scottish netball players, Welsh and Northern Irish netball players who weren't in that side. That is yes, they did, and they beat the Aussies. And I think what's been released on BBC News website is they basically, one of the coaches of the English netball team has basically said there are issues with funding, and this is a long-standing thing, which makes me wonder what the London 2012 Olympic legacy was all about, because the amount of things that have come out about how the funding's worked out, who gets the funding cuts, funding pushes, where does the money go? There's a lot of things going on. I think there is a gender split when it comes to funding as well. I think some of the men's bobsleigh program in the Winter Olympics, for example, had all the funding, and they cut the women's section of the funding. Yet the women won most of the Olympic medals for us at the Winter Olympics, but the men were funded more. There's that. But no, the Nottingham Panthers and the Cardiff Devils and the Sheffield Steelers, those three teams are some of the richest. I think Belfast Giants as well. They're the four teams that are regularly at the top of the league, regularly packing out their arenas, regularly taking fans to away games, regularly getting to the playoffs. And with what's happened to the Edinburgh Capitals, that the future is uncertain a little bit when it comes to British ice hockey, which is a pain in the arse. But I've done a lot of videos on ice hockey the last couple of days to do with issues such as the money side of it. Yes, Paddy Jackson. Yeah, I saw that. He was fired, I think, before his trial. I don't see how anyone's going to really want to take him on. There's rumours about this text message or something to do, which now over here in England, the trial wasn't covered a lot, and I'm not going to go into the details about it because it is still a legal thing. And as a YouTuber, and I really worry about trial. Yeah, I think it was text messages and WhatsApp messages. The issue I have is I've seen legal things be put in place, and people go on Twitter and on YouTube and basically don't follow what the court has said, saying you cannot name this person. So we have to be careful as social media, because you can get in a lot of trouble. But no, yeah, he was fired, and he's lost his contract. Now the thing is, over here in the UK, the only time we heard about his trial was at the sentencing when he was found guilty or innocent. That was the only time we really found out about it. I don't know what the reporting rules are in Ireland when it comes to things like this, especially in the Irish legal system, because the Irish legal system and the Northern Irish legal system have had changes made to protect witnesses due to the Troubles and organised crime and things like that. I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, we know he's had these allegations. He's been found innocent. We have to accept that. He's not the first sportsman to have allegations like this against him, and he's not the first one to go on trial. What I see similarities is Ched Evans and him. I'm seeing similarities here, which is worrying. But no, he's not the first high-profile sportsman to have this kind of issue. But here's another thing, and I've mentioned this before: some of these young players have been paid far too much money, far too young, and they're going to do silly things, whether they're illegal or not. They're going to do silly things or get themselves into awkward situations. I actually don't think so. I don't think an English team will. I really, really don't. Because we have a salary cap in the English Premiership as well, and we have to work out how much he was being paid before, and pay him an equivalent. We're a salary cap league in the English Premiership, and I don't know where he would go, and I don't know if his style of play, the Irish style of play, which he's basically been playing for his entire career, would suit an English side. Exeter don't need a new fly half. Saracens don't need a new fly half. Bath don't need a new fly half. Newcastle don't need a new fly half. They've got a load of young ones and Toby Flood. So that's some of your best teams. Maybe Bristol when they come up, but it'd be a PR. But it'd be a PR nightmare. It'd be very, very hard to justify it to the fan base. Very, very hard. I don't know how you justify it to the fan base. He might. They've got relegated. But they're not quite relegated. They have to play, basically win their last 2 games with bonus points, and hope Worcester lose their games with no bonus points. If Worcester get a losing bonus point or a try bonus point and losing bonus point, London Irish are relegated. So he'll be playing in the Championship. He'll be playing at 2nd tier level rugby if he goes to London Irish. When Bristol have got promotion, they are probably the most likely to probably get mercenary players to try and keep them in the league. But I think it would be a PR nightmare for whoever over here. If he was to go somewhere like Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or the Super Rugby, he might be less well known. The press won't necessarily follow him around as much, and he could possibly just get on with it, because for some reason in Australia or New Zealand you can drink and beat your wife up and be homophobic and assault people and do drugs and have gambling offences. Well, if it was football, yeah, no one wouldn't care. If it was football, no one would care. It's rugby, and I think rugby union fans are a bit more savvy when it comes to things like this, and rugby as a whole is a bit more savvy when it comes to things like this. We'll have to see what happens. But if what is come out is 100% true and is not, then it's going to be difficult because then the press will come down and if he's already lost sponsors and he's lost his contract and he's being disciplined, it's very hard to get redemption. He would probably have to play in the Southern Hemisphere. That's my view on it. For some reason, Australians and New Zealand and Kiwis, you can have a real bad reputation of being really aggressive, violent towards women. You could be an alcoholic, have gambling issues. You can do drink driving. You can still get a job. That's where I think his best bet lies, is to go outside of Europe. There's Major League Rugby in the US, and he could be classed as a marquee player because now he's available, and the Major League Rugby season's about to start, so he could get picked up as an injury replacement or a depth player. I honestly think he might have to, but the season's basically over, so he's not going to get signed now. The domestic season's nearing an end. There's only a couple of weeks left, so nothing's going to happen now. He's got to, if he wants to carry on playing, he's got to keep himself fit enough to play and train. So if he can't find a team to train with and have a trial with, then I don't see how he can do it. I really don't. And I do think that the English clubs would be wary, because they would have been following this story. They would have noticed that he wasn't playing for Ireland. They would have noticed this was going on. His agents probably already contacted lots of clubs in England and France, and no one's picked him up to sign him for next season. There's a reason for that. We'll have to see what happens with him. It's not been a great couple of weeks for Irish sport, if I'm brutally honest. But it didn't get a lot of press coverage over here in England. It was only on the final day of the trial that it got any real press coverage, and it was on the sports news, and it was all over the sports news for 20 minutes. And then it just died away very quickly. And then over the weekend, it's been in the papers, and it doesn't get a lot of column time. he gets a very small newspaper column in today's paper, yesterday's paper, and Saturday's paper. It gets very little coverage. You'll be surprised. Social media has made it very difficult for people to forgive and forget. I know he's been found innocent, and therefore he should be allowed to continue his career. But we have to look into why he got into this situation. And I wouldn't be surprised if his agent or his agents have been communicating with various clubs in England and in France to see if he can be signed. But we'll have to see what happens with the with him. I can't see an English side that that the Irish style of play would suit, because he's been playing with Ulster under centralised contract for so long. The style that English teams play is completely different. We'll see. He might not. He may do. He might not. But I don't think he does. You can have your opinion. I accept that you have an opinion, but I personally think sports becoming a little. This is the issue, though. I mean, with it could be. I've already got to buy a Burnley shirt when I hit 1,000 subscribers, so we shall see what happens come August. We shall see what happens in August, September if he does get picked up. But whoever does sign him, it's going to be a very interesting press statement and press release. But we shall see. But the season's still ongoing. I'm not singing it. No, I can sing Uptown Girl. What is it with my subscribers asking me to do silly things? Christ, if I get 1,000 subs, I've got to wear a Burnley shirt. Oh, God, no. Ronan Keating, really? Really? Oh, God. But here's the thing. If he doesn't get signed by September, you have to do a video grovelling and apologising to me. That'd be interesting. But at the moment, I don't think he does get signed. But we can see what happens over the next few months. But with the way that the Irish, I like the Verve. I can do the Verve. I have that album somewhere, two copies of it. Well, the fact that Ulster and the Irish Rugby Union basically terminated his contract says something, which, that's what I think may possibly put off that English or French club from signing him, maybe. But we'll see what happens in the off season. We'll see what happens in the summer, and we'll see if he can redeem himself. It is what it is. Legal stuff. But he's not the first. He's not the first sportsman to have legal issues like this, and he will not be the last. And the issue is some of these young sportsmen are too overpaid and do silly things. And a lot of them are surrounded by people who are not necessarily the brightest sparks in the old engine, and they do silly things. But we will have to see what happens. But in my eyes, because the Irish Rugby Union and Ulster, his province, terminated his contract with immediate effect, even though he was found innocent, that says to me there is more about his personal behaviour away from the game, be it drinking, partying hard. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back, because, there have been clearly a series of incidents that haven't been released to us. More will come out in time. But because he's had his contract terminated in such a way, there has to be other indiscretions he has done for them to go, we're not helping you anymore. We're not willing to pay you anymore. You're representing us. You're letting us down. We're cutting ties with you. That's what my personal opinion on it, because it's happened before in sport where very talented players, very, very talented players are really badly disciplined, ill-disciplined away from the game. It's happened in the NHL, it's happened in the NRL, football, obviously, in the Premier League, Rugby Union, Super League. There's a lot of them have had very colourful off-field excursions, and it's a recurring thing. It's not just Paddy Jackson; it's a whole line of athletes for the last 30, 40 years have been doing stuff like this, getting themselves in trouble, misbehaving, drinking to excess, partying hard, maybe doing a few recreational drugs. And when it comes to them, when they finally get in trouble, they get the clubs that have basically tried to keep them out of trouble are like, well, you represent us on a daily basis while you're on a contract with us. We can't have this. Happens a lot in rugby league. So many rugby league players do stuff like this and end up in court, or end up with a court order, or do something silly where they burn the bridges and they get sacked. Rugby Union, they seem to be better behaved. But look at Israel Folau. He's refusing to back down from his homophobic comments he's allegedly made, and it looks like Australian Rugby Union could be losing him to Rugby League or AFL again, and he could walk away from the sport, and he's Australia's best player. And this is coming into a year before the World Cup. But some very interesting points. Very, very interesting points. But it is what it is. Right, let's see what other questions you have. I've droned on about Paddy Jackson enough. I think he's a wally. So there you go. I think he's got himself in a position that he shouldn't have. I have not. I looked at Crick Free and there wasn't an IPL stream today, which was annoying because I wanted to watch a bit of IPL today. And I went on the Crick Free site and there wasn't any live feeds, so I haven't been able to. But I've been catching the odd highlights, the odd interview. It really does seem that this one is interesting. And how do I watch my free NHL? Because I'm not gonna tell you the websites because I will probably get into trouble because that's breach of copyright. But I haven't been able to watch any IPL. I've been able to catch up with some of the NHL games. There's two websites I use for the NHL, and it means the games get posted 6 hours after the game's finished, but I get to watch it without ads, which is all good. But the NHL playoffs are getting really interesting. So if you follow ice hockey, the NHL playoffs are getting really interesting, and Vegas looked like they could sweep Los Angeles Kings, and the Golden Knights could get through. And if you sweep a team in the first round, that's a lot of rest you can get. That's getting really interesting. No. SC is Sports Centre, which is on TSN, which you have to pay for, and I'm not Canadian. I will tell you what it is. Oh, silly thing. My predictions for the playoffs. I did a predictions video where I think Boston Nashville will be the final. Although that prediction can change. I think Winnipeg will still beat the Wild, Minnesota, and then whoever we face in the second round, which is most likely going to be Nashville because Colorado are just not on the same page. The Devils aren't on the same page. The Flyers have made it interesting by winning game 2, but that defeat last night puts them on the back foot. But I think Vegas are actually the league needs to, the rest of the playoffs need to take notice of the fact they are basically demolishing the Kings. They've won 2 at home and 1 on the road, and they can win tomorrow night, and then they can get an extra week off. Because if you sweep a team in the first round, you get a lot of rest days, and rest days are going to be crucial. So if you win a series in 4 or 5, that's to your benefit. So it was annoying last night that Winnipeg dropped an egg, and we conceded 6. because in the first two games, the Minnesota Wild couldn't touch us. They were looking leggy, tired, outmatched, and then we decided to go, yeah, we're not going to play that well tonight. And I think that was they were in front of the home crowd and they wanted to put a bit of pushback. But I still think we have enough to get the second round. But then again, you've got to look at Toronto. They're missing Kadri. He's been suspended. Boston are on the front foot. The Washington Capitals are getting slaughtered, I think, and the Blue Jackets have won 2 games on the road, and they're going to, I think, do them at home as well. I think the Capitals could get swept. When I initially made my predictions, I said there'd be no sweeps in the first round. I'm now reconsidering that because some teams really look so out of depth. Ovechkin and the Capitals look completely out of depth and above their head. It's well over their heads. Flyers made it interesting by winning the second game, but they're too inconsistent. That's where I think the Penguins will get through, and it will be an interesting series. The Avalanche and the New Jersey Devils are not playoff ready yet. They need another season or two to get themselves up to the level of the playoffs. I watched a video say a couple actually about the NHL and bids, and the bids said the NHL wanted to draft a couple of expand. Right. The thing is, 32 is a very natural number it should get to. If you go past 32 teams, it gets harder and harder to sort out the schedule and also keep the league stable and costs down. You could, in theory, do 40 teams in the NHL. You could, and I've seen someone work it out, but that also means there are 2 ways he worked out. One, the existing teams the 31 teams we have now plus 9. But we know Seattle are joining next year and the season after next, so Seattle plus 8 more teams. It is feasible, but you would have to have 8 divisions of 5, and the playoff structure would have to change. Still be 16, but you would have to change how you select those 16 teams. Also, you could get away with an 80-game season, so you drop 2 games off the schedule, which could be beneficial to players. So there's that. The other way you would do it is you would have to completely restructure the league. Some teams would have to move and relocate anyway, and then you would only have games between teams in your conference, and you wouldn't play the other conference until playoffs, and the fans wouldn't have it and the owners wouldn't have it. They make less money. I will get back to the 40-team thing. Most that'll be at Liverpool for. If Liverpool win the Champions League, they can keep hold of it. If they win the Champions League and they can compete for the league next season, which I think Liverpool have every chance of being more competitive next year, I think they can keep him for at least another couple of years. He's more guaranteed a first-team football at Liverpool than another clubs. Roma made a mistake of selling him, but then Roma are now playing him in the Champions League, so that's going to be an interesting match. But if Liverpool win the Champions League, they can definitely keep hold of him. And if they can compete for the title next year and be in the top 2 and really in the title race, I think he'll stay for a while. Yeah, I can't. Kakfahina. I did a video on him getting sacked. Graham Murty, apparently he had to release a statement saying the chairman hasn't undermined him. And what worries me about Rangers is that Mike Ashley has given Rangers a cash loan. And that's what concerns me, because the deal to sell Newcastle collapsed, or has completely stalled, because we've heard nothing about Amanda Stabley for about 3 months. And this deal, we've heard nothing on the Mike Ashley wanting to sell Newcastle. That's completely just disappeared. And Mike Ashley's involvement in football is a poison chalice. I feel sorry for any of the Rangers managers, really. And Aberdeen, it's lucky they kept hold of their manager, because I think Rangers wanted to get hold of him when they sacked Pedro. And it just shows the gap between Celtic and Rangers and Aberdeen. The gap is there. And unfortunately, because the league is so competitive, it validates my point of a salary cap. And I've done a video on that and whether I think European football needs to have a salary cap, and I believe it does, because some leagues like the French league, the Scottish league, are very, very uncompetitive, and one or two rich teams at the top have all the money, buy all the players, and then the other 90% of teams in the league structure can't do sod all, and it's boring, and that's why fans don't want to turn up and watch. Premier League Player of the Season. Well, Jamie Vardy's got the highest strike rate of 28.3% of the shots he's taken have gone in. He's got the highest shot to goal conversion rate, which people tend to forget about. I think Marcus Rashford, when he's been played, has been good. When he's been played, because Jose Mourinho is actually wrecking some of these young players at Man United. I personally don't have a player of the season, if I'm honest. I think Man City, De Bruyne, in attack is brilliant. Defensively, Man City are a shambles, but that's my personal opinion. They don't have a decent enough defence to be able to kick on. All they've got to do is get two more players at Man City. They need to get a midfielder and a centre-back, and then they're going to be almost unbeatable. Liverpool have shown they are human and exceptionally vulnerable at the back to pace and pressure. Roman Liverpool, yeah, there's going to be. There's always trouble between English and Italian clubs when European football. There has been since the 70s. The Roma Ultras are a terrifying bunch. They won't hesitate to petrol bomb people, stab people, shoot people. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the police presence is exceptionally tight at both games. The gap is nice. I think it's wider. I think it's more Andy Fordham's waist. Rick Waller's thin now. Andy Fordham's fat again, so we can go for Andy Fordham's waist. Why do people recognise De Gea as a realistic PFA player of the season? Because he's played for a team that's got no trophies this season. That's why. De Gea, he's had a love-hate relationship with Man United because he's made a few overtures to wanting to leave at various points when Moyes was there, Van Gaal, and with Mourinho. And every off-season, there's rumours he's going to go to Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid or somewhere in Spain, Bilbao, Barcelona. There's always been that kind of rumour linking him, and then Romero has to step in for the start of the season because De Gea is not, he's been too distracted by the contract negotiations. The issue is you've got two international goalkeepers at Man United who both are number one capable. Romero has been very good when he's been called upon. De Gea is a very, very good goalkeeper. Is he the best in the world? Some would say Neuer. Some would say Courtois, although I don't believe Courtois is, but some would say Buffon still is, even though he's 40. He's very sorry. He has been very, very good this season, but there has been times where he hasn't. And so, but his long-term future, there's always that rumour linking him back to Spain. And he had, just before the World Cup, a scandal that he was involved in a sex scandal. Surprise, surprise, another football player involved in a sleaze scandal. And he did then not start the first few games of the following season. And this happens every season that Romero is regularly called upon for the first 5-10 games of the season. We'll see what this summer holds. If he has a real bad World Cup, then you can't really say he's the best of the world. If he has a very good World Cup and it puts in some solid performances, then yes, he could push for Player of the Year, Goalkeeper of the Year, the Yashin Award, things like that, Golden Glove, whatever you want to, But there are still some very, very good goalkeepers out there. Some are younger, some are older, but there are some very good goalkeepers out there. So we have to see on that. Did I ever like school, the learning side? There were certain subjects I enjoyed. There were certain subjects I just hated. There were certain subjects I enjoyed more. I enjoyed the geography and I enjoyed my history and sports. Other subjects, maths, English, I didn't enjoy as much, but geography and history were the subjects I really enjoyed. Um, all the school trips. When you get those guys to school trips. Um, but I've never been asked that question before. That's interesting. But if I'm honest, school wasn't my favourite time. If I'm honest, it wasn't my most enjoyable time. Hence why I don't know really what I mean. I enjoyed college more. I enjoyed going to sixth form college more than school. What sports did I play? I don't play any sports anymore, but I used to play cricket and rugby, football. Um, they were my main sports of choice. And I prefer cricket really and rugby. On saying that, I haven't really played sport in a long time. I there were other optional sports that I didn't enjoy as much, so I didn't take them up. So I just stuck with the cricket and the rugby and the football. I played golf for football. I played um, on the wing or fullback for rugby, and I was a bowler in cricket. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, but I haven't really had an interest in playing sports since I was 20. I mean, I did a season at my local rugby club, and I had a few injuries, and that was enough for me to go, yeah, I'm going to call this a day. Um, if my body was in better shape, then yeah. Yeah, I play poker. Yes, I play pool. Yes, I play snooker. I don't play darts. I do occasionally have the odd throw out a board, but I've played poker, I play pool, and I play snooker. Um, but not as much as I used to. I used to play it a lot more. But now not that I don't have the time. It's just I've got other hobbies, and I'm not. I wouldn't say I don't enjoy it, but I just don't do it as much as I used to. Um, Plain and simple. It is what it is. I mean, I used to enjoy, yeah, playing poker a lot and playing pool and snooker. I do occasionally play pool and snooker, but nowhere near as much as I used to. Um, but it is what it is. I mean, my local pool hall shut down, so the nearest one to me is Farnborough, I think. I live in Bracknell, so that's a good 20 miles away. So it's not really um, as much fun to play in pubs because pub tables are wrecked. They're terrible condition, covered in beer. They're uneven floors. They're damaged. The pockets. I prefer playing in a pool hall like a snooker club. My nearest snooker club shut down. Um, I didn't see his interview, but with the England Test team right now, there needs to be a complete overhaul of the test team and and the selection because I haven't seen his interview, so I can't comment on what he was asked and what he said. I will be straight up honest, I haven't seen it. But there are issues with the test side right now. I think Moeen Ali's been overplayed, so he's clearly burnt out and needs a break. Jimmy Anderson, you can see he's on his last legs as a test player. The fact he's still going at his age is amazing, but he's starting to show wear and tear, and he may need a break. Ben Stokes, I don't think he should be playing while he's still awaiting his trial. You can look at Paddy Jackson's trial and say it was a different thing, but I don't think Ben Stokes should be playing right now for legal reasons. He's facing, if he gets convicted, he's also, facing jail time. And he can't even bowl at the moment because when he hit the guy, he actually injured his hand. Stoneman, he hasn't really produced the form. And for me, it's down on form. But there are a lot of issues with the England side right now because you've got Alistair Cook still in the side. That's an ex. That's an ex-captain. That's I don't think Joe Root is the right guy to be captain. I don't think we should have two separate teams because that means more centralised contracts and less. I mean, I think they need to look, the ICC needs to look at the test schedule. There's a reason why Test cricket is suffering, and it's because players are being overused. I think they need to look at not necessarily two separate teams, but they need to look at how they select teams for the Test series they are playing. And that's why I think the IPL and the Big Bash League and things like that, you send a player out there for a couple of years. You can say to English players, you can go and play in the Big Bash, and then you can play in the IPL for a couple of years, and then you get a Test call up, because then they can experience what it's like to bowl on an Australian wicket, what it's like to bowl on an Indian wicket, and then let them go to the West Indies and play in their T20. Let them bowl on a West Indian wicket, then call them up to the Test side. So when they're young, 18 to 20 odd, let them do these T20 competitions. Gives them a chance to bowl and field and bat on West Indian wickets, Indian wickets, and Southern Hemisphere wickets in Australia or South Africa or New Zealand. That's the issue we had. We were too reluctant in the early days as the ECB basically said, no, you're not going. Every other Test nation allowed their best players or players in their systems or even ex-Test players to go. We said no for 5 years. That's where it's a problem. I do think selection policy needs to be looked at. I think Alistair Cook needs to go, because I don't know how Joe Root can have any authority in that dressing room with the ex-captain there. I don't know who the vice-captain is. I'm not sure if is it Stokes, is it Broad, is it Anderson? I mean, I personally wouldn't have Stokes in the leadership group while he's currently got a criminal investigation against him, and he's got an upcoming trial. And taking him on the Ashes tour was absolutely pissing pointless. There are multiple things that, I'm not so sure playing county championship games in other countries is necessarily the way forward, but I think we should let more of these young players like Tom and Sam Curran, for example, play in the IPL for a couple of years. Let them go around and play in the Big Bash and in the West Indian version of the T20. Then call them up to the Test side and say, right, you've now had a chance to bowl, field, and bat on a Southern Hemisphere wicket, on a West Indian wicket, on a subcontinental wicket. Let's see how you can perform on those tours. Because at the moment, the ECB is still very reluctant to allow some of our best players to go to the IPL, to go to the Big Bash, to go to the West Indian. It's chronic. You could have an argument for playing certain T20 club championships with the champions of India, Big Bash, West Indies, and England play a four-way round robin tournament after all the T20 tournaments are finished, and have a Champions League of T20. That could be interesting. But it is what it is. The ICC and the various governing bodies have a lot of problems right now. There's a lot of issues in governance of the game. There's a lot of issues in the test. Yeah, it is. No. It's the ICC, ECB, Cricket Australia, you name it. There are too many outdated views and too many conservative members, and I'll say conservative with a little c because they don't want to embrace change as much. It's not they want to embrace it; it's forced upon them. It's not that they will do anything to stop T20s. They know it's here. There's nothing they can do to stop it. They can just slow down its development. But then you've got to realise all the young kids want to play it. Most of the best players want to challenge their skills in a testing environment like the IPL. And if the ECB wants to keep delaying the inevitable, then they're going to alienate themselves and alienate more fans. The way to save Test cricket is for the day-night test. That's my personal opinion. Go with the day-night test format. We just need to work out with Duke and Kookaburra how to get the best out of the pink ball to make it last as long as a standard test ball. And look at improving the quality of the test standard grounds in the UK, floodlights, improving the outfield, rebuilding stands, etc., etc. But yeah, the ECB is full of geriatrics. The Indian, a quick update on the Bracknell Bees. we crashed out of the playoffs. There's nothing really going on at the moment. It's the off season. The season's just ended. Some teams are already very, very quickly signing their players for next year. The Bracknell Bees farm team, the Bracknell Hornets, also lost out in the playoffs at the weekend. They had a good long run. They gave it a good go. As far as I know, the future is looking reasonably bright. I'm expecting a lot of player movement in the summer between the teams. And we'll have to see come August, September, when the pre-season starts, where we're at. There's going to be a lot of interest. The one thing I will say, is one of our key players, Frankie Bakalik. Yes, Frankie. He's on a long-term suspension. Towards the end of last season, there was a suspicious body check, and the other player got severely concussed. When I say severely concussed, the guy had to be carted off, and he was not able to stand up. Let's just say that he had legs of jelly, and he'd already had 2 suspensions in the season. To this point, he had already been suspended for 8 games. One for a deliberate blindsiding cheap shot elbow to the head, which really there was no argument in that, and another 2 games for acquiring too many penalty minutes in a game and racking up demerit points. So he had 8 games by this point suspended. So he's already missed a fair point of the season. He then gets suspended for 18 games. So if we got really far in the playoffs, that reduces his suspension because he's still on the books. But we only managed to get 2 games in, and plus, I think, 2 games in the league without him, or 3 games or something like that. So he's suspended for a long time, and he won't probably come back, because to have one of your key players who takes up a lot of your salary cap out, it's not worth signing him because you can't play him. But there's not a lot really going on. There's the players' award ceremony is coming up. Or no, it has just happened. My mate Ash was presenting some of the awards at the players' awards dinner. And the signings of the team will start announcing the players they've re-signed, the new players that are joining in the summer, and then we'll go from there. Problem with county cricket in is the weather. Well, here's the thing. Tonight it's going to start raining. There's a storm coming in, so tomorrow it's going to rain, and then by Wednesday, Thursday it's going to be 25, 30 degrees. The weather this spring has been very weird. And Edgbaston, I think it's Edgbaston. Was it Edgbaston or Headingley? I think it was Headingley. I think Yorkshire's game got called off. They couldn't get play going. The outfield was completely waterlogged. Both teams were like they could have tried to drain it better and had a reduced overs and played it over 2 days, rather than on the 4th day we're calling off the test, which is insane. But then you know that when it rains in India, it pours. Hence why their season is when it is. So it's really bloody hot. West Indies, subtropical, you can get those sudden thunderstorms brewing up. Cricket, okay, weather does affect it, but that's why I think the day-night tests are better, because in summer thunderstorms happen a lot, and that could be a way around rain delays. Virat Kohli playing in county cricket. I know he's under contract to the IPL. He probably won't. Well, I don't know if he should or not. If I'm honest, he's a very interesting player. He's a bit of an enigma. He's a bit of a maverick in a way. I think some of his on-field discipline needs to be improved. I know he plays the game with a lot of fight and a lot of intensity, and I think sometimes he oversteps the mark a little bit. It would be great to have him in the county championship. We've had some great players like Kumar Sangakkara. I'm not sure, because I know the IPL is being played right now, and he's contracted to his IPL franchise. So we shall see. I think you're only allowed so many foreign players on a county cricket squad, overseas marquee players. So we shall see. I mean, I'm not against having the best players in the world playing a season here, a season there, long term. He's a very interesting character. But I sometimes think he cannot control himself sometimes in the field. The sledging, you think, some of his sledging goes a bit too far, some of his antics go a bit too far. Um, a bit in ill discipline. Pittsburgh Penguins, I think it's going to be harder for them. Very, very hard. The salary cap means it's harder to keep a team together, and hence why they've lost a lot of depth. Philadelphia are a very inconsistent side. One night they're bad, one night they're good, as proven in this series. They lose the first game 7-0. The Flyers beat them 5-1. So they get to 1-1, and then they lose again last night. I don't know. I think that Columbus are destroying Washington right now. Absolutely destroying Washington right now in the series they're playing. They've beaten them on the road twice. It's going to be interesting. I think they can do it. I think any team that's got to the playoffs has a chance out of the 16 teams. But looking at it now, Vegas are on fire. Columbus are on fire. Winnipeg, okay, dropped an egg last night. Nashville have got an easy series. This is a series with a lot of hatred behind it. So I don't know. They can do it, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I've watched other YouTubers do videos on the NHL, and there's a couple that I follow, and I do find there's certain fan bases that really there's a minority of fans that let them down. If Pittsburgh were to win it, I think that would be an internet meltdown because Pittsburgh fans have a bit of a bad reputation about them because of a small minority. Same with the Maple Leafs, and same with the Bruins. There's a small minority of fans in every fan base that ruin it for everyone else, and it's already started just because they won the first game 7-0. I would like to see another team win it. Of course, I'm going for a Jets win in my heart, but I went for a Nashville Boston final, and I'm going to stick with that prediction until we start the second round. Because at the moment, I think Boston and Nashville, they've had easier series. Boston can wrap it up really easily because Kadri's out. Toronto have got no pushback in them. Nashville are destroying Colorado, and there's no pushback there either. So for me, they're the two finalists for me. I think they're the ones who look the best. But the way Vegas are playing, they're going to mix it up in the West, and the way Columbus are playing, they're going to mix it up in the East. So there's some teams that are really playing really, really well. Yes, there is full coverage of the World Cup on terrestrial TV. It's on BBC and ITV, so you won't miss a game. Every game is televised at the World Cup. ITV get half, BBC get half. Yeah, I don't understand why Cody's only going to be playing a month because he might only get one game, and the weather could be, June is crap month to play cricket because it rains a lot. He should have maybe not played in the IPL this year and focused on playing the first half of the season in county cricket before the Test series, so he can get his eye in on the English wickets. And some of the bowlers bowling at him will be bowling in the Test series. Some of the fielders fielding, some of the batsmen batting against him. It would have probably been more beneficial for him to play from now until June. So play for a good couple of months, get a good 4, 5, 6, 7 games under his belt, maybe more. I'm not against him playing in the county championship, but I think that period of time is not beneficial to the side he's playing for and for himself. Hence why we've seen 11, now possibly 12 English players in the IPL. Some of them will get in the Test side. They're going to have invaluable knowledge on the Indian players because they're getting a good 2 months out in India before they come back to prepare for the Test series. Kohli only being there for a month, that won't give him enough time to adjust to English wickets. because he's going to be playing on IPL wickets, on Indian wickets, and he's going from a subcontinental wicket to an English wicket, which is completely different, and the weather conditions are completely different. So we have to go to. See you later, Abdul. Casey, don't worry about it. I mean, I had a stream earlier that just wasn't really working. There was a few technical issues with it. That's probably why you've seen another stream come up and disappear. Right, let's go through everything. What have we got? Any more questions? The last a while ago, the World Cup, done that. Yeah, I think I'm up. Well, I'm up to date with all the questions now. Yes, there is full coverage on terrestrial TV in the UK of the World Cup. There is for the next 3 World Cups. BBC and ITV have guaranteed those rights. They get half the games each. They share the games. Kohli, I think that's too short a time for him to really get his eye on an English wicket. I think he would have been better served playing from April to June, but that's just me. So next questions, because this is we've had some interesting things come up on the stream. Not that I know of, because the Hornets were still playing in their playoffs and some of their players can be called up. I think they're going to probably wait until next month. We normally sign our players late and announce our players late. They normally sign them and then announce them week by week. I'm more interested in seeing who our imports would be. I think Jan Bendik stays. I don't think Frankie does. I think Frankie Bakalic's done. 18 game suspension. He missed half a season last year. He had an 18 game, a 2 game, and a 6 game. The thing is that's your leadership core you've re-signed. You know they're going to sign because your team is stably run. It's well run. It's been well run for years. They have no reason to leave. They have no reason to leave and move on. None. But that's how your team do it. Your team decide to announce re-signings very, very early. Bracknell tend to sign the players and not tell us until later on in the summer. So that's how teams do it. Some teams are very quick and some teams look around and assess, okay, we need to possibly rebuild. We'll have to see what happens with Basingstoke as well. I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see because you've obviously heard rumours that they're going to be around next year. I don't see how they can be, but that's personally just me. But we'll have to see what happens over the next 2 to 3 months. And as the summer progresses, we'll have to see. No, 2 are of us aren't going out. This is the issue. This is the clash between domestic and Test cricket, and this is one of the reasons why Test cricket has problems. Is the fact that the BCCI, hello Sajid, because they've embraced the T20 too much and the ECB have embraced it enough. There's got to be a balance found between your international sides and your domestic first class and short formats to the game. And I think each country has not got that balance right yet. I don't think any Test playing country has got the balance right between Test cricket, one-day cricket, and first class cricket and T20. They haven't got the balance right. But that's my personal opinion. I think him only having a month at Sussex, I don't even know how many games he actually plays. Yes, we're talking about several sports, but cricket is one of them, and Virat Kohli is the topic, and Stoneman is the topic. I haven't seen Stoneman's interview, but I think with how the England Test side played in Australia and New Zealand, some players need to be dropped. Some needs to be rested and given some time off to recuperate because I do think the English Test setup is overplaying some players, and there's a lot of other players who are in county cricket who deserve a call-up. And I think the ECB should really allow more players to go for the IPL. The fact that Joe Root wasn't signed for the IPL is probably a blessing for him. I think Joe Root needs to have a bit of a break. Sit down with the ECB and the selectors because he is England captain and go, does he want to continue as captain, firstly? And he needs a break. I think he is also being overplayed. But it is what it is. That's my personal view on it. Everyone's going to have a different view on it. Everyone's going to have an opinion on it. English players can't play leg spin. It's because of the style of your wickets. It's the conditions of the wicket. It's the temperatures you have to play in. It's the degradation on the ball, the heat, humidity. I wouldn't say all English players can't play leg spin, but this is the issue with not allowing, in the early years of the IPL, English players to play in the IPL. If they let all these young players go out, with some experienced players who are not going to be in Test side anymore, so the experienced players can teach these young players this is what it's like playing on a subcontinental wicket. They can do 1-2 years of travelling around all these T20 competitions, then get called back by their county and the national side, and then they've learned how to bowl leg spin better, how to bowl a bouncer better, how to bowl an outswinger, an in-swinger, reverse swing, how to bat against reverse swing, how to bat against a leg spin or off spin, off break. This is the thing. This is where the ECB has been very, very reluctant to allow our best players to play abroad, and it is stupid. Australia really, embraced the IPL very early on. Wrist spinners, I can't think of any off the top of my head that are in the top level of county cricket. I really can't think of any off the top of my head. I don't think the English wickets are suited to wrist spin. Personally, it's the way our wickets are and the conditions. I don't think they're as conducive to wrist spin, and I'm not sure if there are any off the top of my head. If there were any, they're long retired. But I'm going to have to look at that and research wrist spinners. As far as I know, there's not many wrist spinners around anyway. But I don't think there's any English ones of a decent enough standard to get into the Test side. So I'm writing that down. I mean, Moeen Ali is England's best spinner at the moment, but he's looking very tired, and I don't think he's fully fit. There's a couple of other spinners that are floating around, but I don't think we've got any wristies. No. It's because of the style of the English game as well, and the style of English wickets. Obviously, Indian wickets are very conducive to wrist spin. Yeah, but Jason Roy is an experienced campaigner now. He's been around for a little while. But it's about, can they adapt to the conditions? Can they adapt to the heat? The heat in India is another one. Humidity is another thing, which is something we don't get a lot over here until later in the summer. Oh, Stokes is terrible at the moment. Josh Buttler, I think, is a confident player on the day. If he doesn't feel it on the day, you're not going to get the best out of him. If he suddenly decides he wants to play, he's a very moody player, is Josh Buttler. Ben Stokes, he's in a right mess at the moment, and I don't think he should be allowed to earn money while he's about to go to prison, because he's facing a court trial during the middle of the Indian Test series, ironically enough. So when you guys are touring us, Ben Stokes got to go to court, which has got to be a massive distraction for the rest of the England team, and unnecessary press coverage that they don't need when they need to focus on actually winning. Yeah, and I last I checked the score, it was 0-0. This is a crucial. If Stoke lose this game, they're done. They are done. If Stoke lose this game, they are relegated. In my eyes, I mean, even though West Brom won at the weekend, West Brom are on the tank. They're out. They're done. I think Southampton, they've got to win the next game. If Southampton don't win the next game, they're done as well. I think that's the bottom three we have now is the bottom three that's going to be at the end of the season. Can Indian spinners do the magic? I remember watching Muralitharan take 10 wickets at the Oval. So yes, subcontinental spinners can do it. Not all of them though. I think if it is a very hot, dry summer, which is looking like we're going to possibly have, it's going to be hot this week. It's going to start getting really hot for British conditions. We shall see. It's not a beanie. It's my snowboarding hat. It's my rare snowboarding hat. So that's why I'm wearing it. I decided to change my hats up tonight. I've been wearing the same couple of hats for the last forever. So I've decided to mix it up and put my snowboarding beanie on. If Kohli doesn't play any spinners, he's stupid because England will come with a spinner. It mixes up the bowling attack. It poses different questions, and you can spin on English pitches. Murugatharan, okay, Sri Lankan, has proven you can do it. He's proven he can take 10 in an innings in not many balls. That's what is doable. The thing is, Lords and the Oval are completely different wickets, even though they're only about 10 miles apart. The conditions on both of them are completely different. I'll be very, very, very surprised if Kohli doesn't take any spinners with him, because Indian bowlers, they always produce good spinners, always. Subcontinental spinners are the best. Sometimes they are absolutely unplayable. But it all depends on the weather conditions and how big the travelling circus is. But it is what it is. I mean, but South African wickets again are different to other wickets. Four seamers means you've got a very, very long tail. Then you've got a very deep batting attack. But if you can find a spinning all-rounder, that would be very interesting. If you can find a spinning all-rounder in India, which I'm sure you have, that would be interesting. But it's always handy to have that fifth bowling option. I really think it's always handy to have that fifth bowling option. It does make it a lot easier. So instead of having all four seamers getting really tired because they've got to do 20 over batches and out of all the others, they've got to do 20, 25 overs each in a day, and they've got to do lots and lots of bowling. They're going to get very, very tired. If you have that spinner, it takes a little bit of means you can rotate your seamers around more. It just gives you an extra bowling option. Soccer World Cup, I think it will be Belgium or France. I think Germany will be up there as well. There's a handful of teams that can do it, but we have to see what happens in the next month or so, because more players can get injured, players can get suspended, players can get dropped from their national sides, because there's some friendlies to play before the World Cup starts, and players can get injured and suspended. Why am I live? It's a question and answer session to live stream. We got Brumar, Kumar, Pandya, and Sharman. I still think having that fifth bowling option and an all-rounder bowling option means you can share the workload with your bowling attack. Limiting yourself just to four seamers is probably not the best idea, because the Oval, you can definitely get some spin out of it. Lots and lots of spinners have had success at the Oval. Trent Bridge, you can have a spinner at Trent Bridge as well, and they can cause damage. Edgbaston, again. Retired. Okay, I can go with a retired James Bond. I can accept that. Yeah, money penny. Okay, in that case, take your best spinner. Because I can't see India trying to win a Test series with only four seamers. That would be catastrophic suicide, because that's going to be some very, very expensive overs. A seamer, if he starts getting tired, is going to spray it all over the place. That could be very expensive. Be interesting though. Be interesting to see where certain people bat. Who's going to lead the bowling attack? Who's going to be the one to take the new ball? Who's going to be the one to be the backup pairing of bowlers? That's going to be interesting. And it's going to be a very interesting. Jason Gillespie. He's the only night watchman to get a double century in 2005. He went in. He was in Australia, put in a bat. He came in as night watchman and he scored a double century. So he's the only night watchman to do that. Jason Gillespie was a very underrated bowler. Very, very underrated. Because he was in the shadow of McGrath and Brett Lee, he was the third one of that seam attack. And you had Kaspovic, who was also underrated as well, and Sean Tate in that Test series. That was the best Ashes series ever because it was the most competitive. And the Aussies had a very, very good fast bowling attack, backed up by a couple of good spinners. Hello, TNRXX. Hello there. But no, Jason Gillespie, he's now a very, very good coach, and he coaches in county cricket. He's been coaching in county cricket for a good decade now. But no, he was a very, very, very good seam bowler. Exceptionally underrated, but he was part of one of the best bowling attacks you would have seen I've ever seen. Yeah, I'm not ginger, so how can I be Ed Sheeran? There you go. And I don't need glasses, I can see, and I actually have a driving license. He's doing. Jason Gillespie is doing very, very well as a coach. He's doing exceptionally well as a coach. There's a reason why he's been coaching in the county championship for nearly a decade. Especially after he retired, good for you, Galaxy A5. You're really starting to annoy me now. But he's a very, very consistent coach in the county championship. Very, very consistent coach. He seems to get the best out of his players. He seems to improve players. It doesn't matter if they win every match, but he seems to improve their confidence and their ability, and he encourages them to express themselves as well. The 2005 Ashes was brilliant. You had some really interesting matchups, and it was the two best bowling attacks I think I've ever seen. But when you've got players like Brett Lee who just refused to give in when the Test match they were chasing at, I think it was Trent Bridge, and he refused to give in. And then when they were out with 2 runs short because Kaspovic spooned it up in the air, and the way Freddie Flintoff went over to Brett Lee and shook his hand and said, "Don't worry, mate. As always, the next Test match we can do it all again." That was possibly the moment of that Test series. Brett Lee refusing to give in. So while the rest of the Australians were wickets were falling, he just stuck at it. That's where I have a bit of. That's why he's my favourite player, Brett Lee. I've got to do my favourite player list as well. That's something I do. But no, the 2005 Ashes was basically 2 of the best sides in the world knocking horns and going for it, and there was no hold bars in that one. But it was played with respect. That's where Michael Clarke actually injured his back, which is the injury that actually forced him to retire. That Test series is where Michael Clarke actually injured his back badly enough because he had just recovered from a back injury and he injured it more in the field. And it was I think it was the 3rd Test, and he went for a catch and he was taken off by the substitute fielder came on for a bit, and then he couldn't field for the rest of the day. But he came into bat and he could barely run, like up and down the wicket. He could barely move. He was in agony, and that injury shortened his career by a good 5 years. He had constant back problems. He had back problems the rest of his career after that. He was already had issues with a back issue before that Test series, and it took him a long time to get back to fitness. And then I do remember he was in the field and he did his back in, and that was him done. But Michael Clarke, I think you saw something about him that you could respect the player. There was something about Michael Clarke that you instantly respected him, regardless if he was the opposition or your teammate or you were supporting him or whatever. You saw that respect for Michael Clarke there. Yeah, I think this is another thing I don't quite understand. That was a very good rule to have. If you're still capable of batting, but you're having issues running, it's interesting. I think they're just trying to modernise the game. And to be fair, if you're not fit enough to stand at the wicket, you're going to harm your team. I think the system was being abused by those who had been out of the crease for a long time and were getting a bit tired and just didn't want to do the running. I think the system was getting abused a little bit. But I think he's trying to freshen up the rules and keep the game and the sport as relevant as possible. And I think that's possibly aimed at trying to, attract that new casual fan or keep the interest going there. But we'll see how long that rule stays in and whether they bring the runners back. The thing is, Casey, I haven't seen enough of. I mean, I've seen every NIHL South Division 1 team play, but there's not enough of. I don't know enough about some of the elite. I don't know enough about the elite league players. and the NIHL players. I can only do on what I've seen, and that is a very limited limited amount. I've seen Bracknell like every home game this season. I'm not sure how popular that would be on the channel. I mean, I would love to do it, but I would have to. I'd only really do it on Bracknell players. I could do NHL players though. My favourite NHL players that I've enjoyed watching over the last 20 years. That would be interesting. That one, my favourite NHL player. I've seen a lot of great NHL players in the last 20. Oh God, I started watching NHL in 1992. That's a lot of hockey. But yeah, that means I've got to go back in time a little bit, and some of them you wouldn't even know about. I could do a Battle Bees video. I could do another jersey video, explaining the evolution of the jersey. I mean, I could do that, but I'm not sure how people would actually watch it. But it is interesting. I mean, I could look into the history of the Bracknell Bees. I could do the history of the Bracknell Bees and how they have evolved and how they were national champions at one point, and the fact that on a smaller budget we beat the big boys. But that could be interesting. History of the Bracknell Bees. I can definitely do that one. Yes, yeah, no, we've already had a couple of Celtic fans basically rub it in. The Smittles, yeah, Lucas Smittle carried on a few seasons too long when he should have clearly retired and called it a day. That was his issue. He carried on playing too long, and that was, I think, a pride thing. He's a very nice man. I've met him. I've spoken to him. I used to work down my local recycling centre, and he was down there a lot. And I'd see him once a week, and he was very, very polite. He was very, very nice. But I still think he should have retired a good 3-4 seasons before he did. I think he played a bit too long, and that was actually difficult for the team to develop because he was taking up a roster space because he was classed as an import as well. That could have gone to a young British kid or a younger import who was very, very talented. Yes, he is. He is a player coach for the Slough Jets. I think. That's an issue. Right, let's go through this all. Yes, I will do a Bracknell Bees video, a history of. I've already Casey. I've already done one on Basingstoke Bison, so whether another one will be all right, we can see. I mean, people are still watching that Basingstoke Bison video that I posted a couple of months ago. It is expensive to get food and drink at Lord's. Take a packed lunch with you and a bottle of water is my advice, because it is exceptionally expensive to buy food and drink at Lord's. Yeah, no, seriously, John, this is why I've done a video saying I think that there needs to be a salary cap in European football, because some of the leagues are so uncompetitive. It's not fun to watch when you know that only one or two teams are going to be competitive and the others are going to be scrabbling for what none of them are going to qualify for Europe. It's actually depressing, and that's probably why Scottish football is losing fans. It has got money problems, and then Celtic aren't really challenged in the league. So when they go to the Champions League, they burn miserably and fail and get slaughtered 7-1. But I can do a video on the Bracknell Bees if you guys would be interested. I know I've done a video on the history of British ice hockey, so if you're interested in that, it's on the channel. It's a few days old. I've done a video I've done a few videos where I've been at games where I filmed the warm up and I filmed bits and pieces. I've done a few post match reviews that are on the channel hidden away. in the ice hockey playlist. But yeah, there's always ideas. I can always be open to ideas from for video ideas, and I've still got a lot of them to do. Like my favourite cricket players, like my favourite. No, it wasn't Pedro Caxahena's fault. I think there's more issues at play than the manager question. Rangers still have money problems off the field. I've heard rumours that there could be another administration looming earlier in the season. Now, when it comes to sports rumours, I'm a little bit more cautious, but Rangers still have money problems off the field. They still do. And they're not going away. They're still there. I wouldn't blame it on a guy who was, not given the tools to do the job, because Celtic have all the money. Aberdeen are pretty stable as well, and they can still buy better players than you. Okay, admittedly, Aberdeen have decided to have a little wobble right now and decided to stop playing, but there is that. Off the field, there are problems with Rangers still. There's still financial uncertainty. And the fact that Mike Ashley's given Rangers a loan is what's worrying. Right, the basis of how they used to be in the Elite League. It's quite simple. They were invited up because that's how the Elite League works. Their arena used to have seats before they bought it off. This is when they had money. The people who own Basingstoke also own Bracknell, the Taylor family. They bought Bracknell off John Knight, and they also bought Basingstoke and overextended themselves. Basingstoke had money problems. They dropped down to what was the EPIHL, which also went out of business. They almost went out of business. We also went out of business. That was 10 years ago. They just couldn't. They were invited up. They were up in the Elite League for a while, and they just couldn't financially cope. They used to, until half their rink was condemned, they used to have full seating there. All sides of the rink had seats, and the penalty box side where the old dressing room is now you can't, because it's falling apart. That's why I don't know if their rink can continue to be used. The Scottish Football Association, it's a mess. It makes the English FA look really professional, and that's saying something. I think the issue with Scottish football has been the collapse of ITV Sport 16, 17 years ago, followed up by the collapse of Setanta 10 years ago, followed up by the fact that, that's what's happened. The TV deal, when Setanta collapsed, that's why the Scottish Football Association really had problems. But it was 20 years ago is the last time Scotland qualified for a major tournament, and I don't think they've got the pieces in place to do it anytime soon. That's players and coaches. They were closer this time to qualifying than they have been in a while. I will give them that. But the Scottish Football Association has got to look at combining the two top leagues together to make a proper Scottish Premier League, and combining the two, League One and League Two, together to make like a championship conference type thing, because the Premier League is too small. It's very competitive, and we'll have to go from there. At the moment, Scottish football is in a right mess. The SFA is a tired old organisation, and if your best player can't even play in the English Premier League, there's your problem. The best Scottish players are not of the standard they were 20 years ago. There used to be loads of top quality Scottish players playing not only in England and Scotland, but also in Europe, and you're just not getting that now. And that is what's killing Scottish football, is they're not producing. And the clubs. It is what it is. Unless out of nowhere, a young kid who's like a Ronaldo type thing, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next season in the ice hockey as well. it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what will happen with Basingstoke because their rink is a mess. It's not just the seating that's falling down; it's the ice surface is not even flat. It's on a slant, which is just and the boards are all over the place. A lot of work would have to be done to get that up to just playable standard. I'm not even sure it would pass safety inspection because the article I read just before Christmas, they weren't guaranteed after this season. So we'll have to see what happens going forward, and we'll have to see what announcements are made because we've just seen the Edinburgh Capitals go out of business. So, and they had a rink, so that's going to be interesting. Right, I'm going to keep going for another few minutes, so I'll take a couple more questions and then I'm going to call it a night. So, if you've got any more questions, just place them in, and we'll see how I'll take a couple of more. It's been an interesting little live stream. It took a while to get going tonight. There were a few technical issues with the initial live stream. So do it again. So, any more questions, guys? Seems bad, but I don't know. I know it's a bit. Oh, the roof won't fall on the ice. It's the bits inside. The problem is the building has failed safety inspection after safety inspection, and the ownership of the rink have done nothing to sort the problems out. They've allowed issues to go wrong there that were easily fixable years ago, and they didn't. There were structural issues with the south side of the building a long time ago. It's just in the last couple of years they got really, really bad, and that is down to Planet Ice. It's down to the company that runs the rink, and that's Planet Ice. They're the people responsible for it getting such a state. The council are also equally responsible for not willing to do a compulsory purchase, which they can do when they want, because they want to redevelop the whole area. They could do a compulsory purchase. So it's what it is. No, we don't have the same partnership anymore. We're owned by someone else now. We're owned by someone completely different, and we have been for a couple of seasons. It's a new family, a new wealthy family owns us. But the issues are still there with Basingstoke. It's Planet Ice. The council could do a compulsory purchase scheme on the rink, and they refuse to do it. They say no, we legally can't. Well, you can because you submitted plans to develop the surrounding area. You can do a compulsory purchase, and the council don't want to. And a compulsory purchase means they get the land half price, and they don't want to. So the council have got a part to play in this as well. The whole situation has been really, really mishandled. Do the two Davids go and say I want to make as much money before cashing in and possibly move back into the pornography business? Well, this will be my last question. These will be my last two questions because no one's just coming. The thing is, Gold and Sullivan are sleazeballs, absolute sleazeballs. The way they ran Birmingham City was a disgrace, and they were investigated there as well. They sold it to Coulson Young, and there was a police investigation into that. There was a financial police investigation into that. The way they've run West Ham has been nothing short of scandalous at times. Okay, yes, the fans did react in an unfortunate way. I will accept that. The fans' reaction to the Burnley defeat was shameful. It was. But various fan groups were organising protests, and it was only when Karen Brady agreed to meet them and have discussions with the representatives of the fans groups that were putting their grievances in writing for these representatives to talk to her, that they decided to delay any further protests. It just so happened that it boiled over that day. And even though they've won the last couple of games and sort of improved and got themselves out of trouble, I think long term West Ham have problems. That stadium was the wrong stadium. They should never have got that stadium. They should have stayed at Upton Park. Bearing in mind, Sullivan Gold have pumped loads of money into Upton Park after they sold Birmingham City to Coulson Young. They enlarged the main stand, so wasted a lot of money then. And the fans aren't happy with the move. They're not happy with how the club is being run. There was the racist transfer scandal. West Ham's PR department this season must be ripping their hair out because David Moyes he's threatened to slap a female reporter and beat a female reporter up. last year at Sunderland. I don't think he's the guy to lead the club forward long term. His time at Man United, Real Sociedad, and Sunderland will say he's a shit manager, which he is. I think they treat Slaven Bilic appallingly. I don't know if they'll get back into the pornography business. I don't think that the current pornography business will take them. Personally, I don't think the current industry would take them. There's too much negativity around them. I don't think the current business would take them. They, David Sullivan's been investigated for laundering money. He used the club to launder his company's money to avoid paying tax on it. These guys are sleazeballs, and he's trying to contest that. So that's what I think of them. I think they're disgusting, disgraceful individuals. But that's my personal opinion. I'm not a West Ham fan, but I don't want these guys involved with football because apparently they can pass the fit and proper persons test, even though they've been investigated for financial irregularities and corruption at Birmingham City. But there we go. Let alone the pornography business. I mean, I personally think that West Ham will be in a relegation fight next season as well. There's no investment in the squad. They've had a racism scandal to do with transfers, which apparently was signed off from someone at the top. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was Golden Sullivan who signed off on that. Karen Brady, yeah, don't trust her either. But that's just me. That's my personal opinion. I don't think, that they've got to find a buyer for that club. They really do. They have been nothing but bad. How the fit and proper persons test? If Chelino can pass it, I suppose a drug smuggling Greek who owns Panathinaikos can pass it and own Nottingham Forest, I suppose. If the Oyster family can pass the fit and proper persons test and the father, the patriarch of that, is a sex offender, then anything's possible. Honestly, the fit and proper persons test is a laughing stock. The FA is a laughing stock. Financial fair play is a joke as well because it's not properly enforced. So many people who shouldn't be running football clubs are running football clubs. It's unbelievable. Right. Okay. Anyway, thanks for everyone for participating. You guys have been brilliant. I've got an itchy nose. I've got a few video ideas, so thank you guys for that. If Newcastle Vipers went out, anybody can go out. Oh yes, the Vipers. Oh yes, the Newcastle Vipers. Who were also called the Jesters at one point. There's it is what it is. Yeah, but the Newcastle Vipers, they were an ice hockey team in the old Super League. They ran out of money. They disappeared. They changed name 3 times as well, so there was no stability at that team. They will be fun next year. The ice hockey will be fun next year. We'll have to see what happens with Edinburgh. We have to see what happens with Basingstoke. Yeah, they did, but again, mismanaged away off the ice. Cardiff have gone out and come back into business. I did a video on the history of British ice hockey, and so many teams went out of business or had to drop down a league because of financial problems. It's an ongoing theme in British ice hockey, an ongoing theme. But anyway, I'm going to call that a night. So thank you everyone who participated tonight. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all your questions. We've discussed a few things tonight. It's good. I've got some more video ideas, which is good. So I appreciate that. And I'll have some more videos tomorrow. Thank you very much.